I wanted to talk a little bit about sketchbooks today, and also could go over colour mixing if that's of any use to anybody, but you're probably pretty good at colour mixing. The other thing is I'm making this the last week of the kind of watercolour type project. Although we've got one more week in May, in April. In May I'm not running a class the last week of May, so that would cut May a little bit short. So I thought keep it as 4-week projects. And the next month's project is a little bit vague, but it's sort of kind of looking towards abstracting or stylising. So it's sort of looking at other ways of making paintings. So I think the mediums that I'll probably try and explore are perhaps mixed mediums might be quite good. Perhaps acrylics and maybe a little bit of collage and just anything else you want to throw in. So it's just moving slightly away from naturalism, which is what I tend to really do, is paint naturalistically. So that's the theme for next month. Pop that in the email as well. Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about keeping sketchbooks, and I know Jan's brought some sketchbooks in. Has anybody else brought a sketchbook? Yeah, good. So yeah, if you've got sketchbooks with you and you're happy to share, I just thought, I'd just talk a little bit about sketchbooks really. So I've obviously I keep sketchbooks, and I've been doing this for years and years and years, right back before art college really, and I think particularly since I started teaching, I seem to use them even more now. I just really enjoy them. It's a nice way for me to just relax and not have to have an end product in sight. It's not like a painting I need to finish and then try and exhibit. So it's something that I mostly do purely for pleasure. Sometimes it's working out ideas. It might be like a painting that I've got, maybe been commissioned or want to do, and particularly a bigger painting. I might do some preliminary drawings. The ones I've mostly been using, I've been using these a lot over the last few years, as you know, these sort of brown paper sketchbooks. And drawing with pens or bits of watercolour. I've shown you some of those before. So these A4 size I think is quite nice. I don't tend to go any bigger than A4 size. I find them too heavy to carry around or too cumbersome. If I want bigger bits of paper, I'd rather just have single sheets after that. But A4 I think fits nicely in a bag, it's easy to carry. So they're quite good ones. I've also got white, the equivalent in white. So that's these sort of things. And I've brought quite a few in if you want to have a look through. This one is a thinner, sort of lightweight one. It's thinner paper and less pages in there. And I particularly like these for travelling because it's so much lighter to carry around. So although they're a cheaper paper, they're a lot easier to carry around. And nowadays I tend to actually use the A5 size more, which is the same sort of thing, lightweight sketchbook. I started off with these just floppy ones, but these, it's nice to have something a little bit rigid at the back, just to lean on while you're sketching. So these are fine. If you really want to go very, very light, this would be like the lightest you could carry around, and these would easily fit in a bag. But these are, yeah, as I say, they're just slightly heavier, but give you a more rigid surface to work against. So these, I tend to keep these in my painting bag with a few pens, and then, if I've got painting gear, I don't want heavy sketchbooks too. That's those. Black ones is something you can experiment with, just drawing on black, quite interesting. That's probably about the best one in there, but that's something. And the other thing is like little tiny ones are quite nice too, particularly if I don't want to carry a bag. These will fit in a pocket, and I can just carry these around when I'm out for a walk. And these ones I've just used a liquid sort of ink brush type thing and a water brush, and this was me experimenting, seeing what I could do with just materials that will fit in the pocket when I'm out walking. So that's quite nice. Yes, I think that's pretty much it. I've got I might order some more sketchbooks reasonably soon. So I've used this make, C White, right since I was at art school really. I've got one or two sketchbooks that aren't C White, but they used to do these when I was at art school, and then I came across this, and I've got a wholesale account with these. So if you want any of these, I can get these. The prices here you need to add the VAT on because this is without VAT. But if you want any sketchbooks, I can kind of get these. I'll put an order together once I've got enough people when nothing's together. Really. Yeah, so that's all good. Any questions? So yeah, if you want to have a browse through those. And the other thing was colour mixing, but I think you're all right. Any particular challenges with colours or?
All the time.
Sorry, it's all the time. Always a challenge. Okay, well, I'll do a very brief recap. So this is the colour wheel that I use, and I've got blanks of these if you want one of these and fill them in yourself. And it comes out of this book here, which when I first started teaching, I had pretty much read this one. Because although when I was at art school, I probably started off, they advised me to use these and one or two others. I then went through all the colours I could get hold of and tried them all out to see what they were all like. And then when I first started teaching, I wanted to make sure I was advising people not to get the ones you really need rather than just everything. So that's why I kind of read this. This wasn't around when I was at college, so this is a kind of later version. What I really like about this idea, the way he describes colour wheels and colours, to me it's a lot simpler than the way I was taught at art school. We were taught things like, look for like your cool reds and your warm reds, and your warm blues and cool blues. And it's not always that apparent which ones are warm or cool when you first start painting. How do you really know that? So, but this is this kind of way of describing colours describes them in relation to like the secondary colours. So with the primary colours, these are colours you can't mix. A yellow is a yellow and a red's a red. You can't really mix those colours. But you can mix a purple and an orange and green. And you'll find that each of these primary colours, they'll have a little bit of a bias towards one of the secondaries. So you'll get orangey reds, you'll get greeny blues, and so forth. So it's a really useful way of thinking about all the colours. And if you've got like a paint box, you could probably, once you start mixing them, you'll realise which ones are, say, the greeny blues, because you'll get much stronger greens with those, and which ones are the purpley blues, because you get a much better purple. I haven't got the charts out, but you can make a chart. Let's see if I can just find one actually. Because if you're not comfortable with colour mixing, it is a good idea to just make yourself some charts. So this is the end of that. So the greens would be a good place to start. It's one slightly better version of that. Yeah, that's a cleaner version. So really bright range of greens, using green yellows and green blues, and softer, more muted greens, you'd use the ones that are kind of pointing away from the green, the purpley blue and the orangey yellow. So just setting out, even if you just do a couple of rows of each yellows, oranges and purples, it will be enough to just help you to work out which colours are which. And then you could go through your paint box and just try and identify what is what. When I first started teaching, I advise students to get those colours, maybe like a brown as well and some white, and you can get kind of 90–95% of the colours that you need just with those. You'll find that there's perhaps a few really bright pinks you can't get, or particular greens you can't get, but you can get an awful lot of colours, and particularly more naturalistic colours with those. So that's a really good place to start. Some sort of version. There may not be exactly cadmium yellow, but it's some sort of version of cadmium yellow.
Yeah, because they're all named. They've all got names.
Yeah.
Names.
Yeah.
So you've got to learn those names.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there might be sometimes the orangey yellows might be called like a mid yellow or something like that in some tubes. But yeah, cadmium is a sort of popular name.
This one's got medium yellow.
Yes, that's what I mean, like medium yellow.
Yeah.
That would be something like cadmium yellow.
Well, that's right. It does get confusing.
It is.
And that says lemon yellow,
So that would be like a green yellow. Yeah.
Exactly. So That's the colour. You know,
Yeah.
it's got that greeny tinge to it. And you think, oh, right.
Yeah. It
That's
is
it,
just
just
getting used to
learning
it.
it,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
just learning the names, learning what they do. Yeah, what you can do with them. You look, I mean, particularly with things like watercolours, you'll also get yellows that are a lot more transparent. So if you've got a proper cadmium, like an artist quality cadmium, it will be made of cadmium, and it's really quite opaque. So it may be good for some things, but it might not be great for watercolours if you want a very transparent look. So you might be looking for something like maybe Indian yellow, which is more of a browny yellow, but it's a lot more transparent, a lot more kind of glowing. So, and there's also all the earth colours. So they sort of relate somewhere. You could think of, say browns. You could think of like a greeny brown, or a kind of very reddy brown, or a slightly purpley brown. And once you get used to what the different ones are, you get a feel for which they are and what you can do with them. Yeah, but yeah, as I say, doing something like this, if you're not sure, have a go at this first, and then take it from there. You can get a lot of paint. So I'm thinking like blacks. A lot of paint boxes come with black or grey. When I was taught not to use black, and I've resisted that quite a lot until the last few years. And I do use them now, but if I mix most of my dark colours together, so this is a very dark blue and a very dark red, I'll get a kind of dark purple, and just the tiniest bit of yellow will make that go. It won't go exactly black, but it will go a kind of dark browny colour. So I messed that up a bit. That's probably about as dark as I could get with watercolours. And mixing actually a dark green and a dark red will get quite a blacky colour. So that is dark. That feels darker still. So dark green, dark red, like an alizarin crimson and something like phthalo green or viridian or something like that. That gives something like that. I mean, the advantage of that with watercolours is that you might get a blacky colour that's slightly more transparent and a bit more glowing. But also, you're learning to mix darks with colours.
And also water makes it, more transparent.
Yes, it will. Yeah. The more water you've got with it, the more transparent you get. And you might want to keep it a little bit transparent rather than have it very, very, with watercolours, say, if you are working with watercolours, rather than have a very heavy, dark, solid black. So that can be, it can be worth experimenting with. Is that enough? Yeah. Okay, right. Yeah. Yeah.